Our top story tonight, Stuxnet.
A computer worm is said to be behind an attack on Iran's power station.
The virus has opened the eyes of every government to the destructive possibilities of a new type of covert attack.
In 2011, security services around the world were stunned by the biggest cybersecurity breach to date. A computer worm called Stuxnet was the first weapon to be used against a nation, and it was made entirely from code. The virus was discovered in the databanks of power plants and factories all over the world. It's believed to have been released by an infected USB stick. Found to be 20 times more complex than any other, experts claim that the virus was responsible for shutting down 1,000 nuclear centrifuges at Iran's main nuclear facility, and that it set back Iran's nuclear program by 2 years. Stuxnet was not a virus created by amateurs. In fact, many security researchers think that it would have taken the resources of a nation to create.
Stuxnet had a number of impacts on people's perception of cybersecurity. First of all, it made people realise that although cybersecurity, everybody thinks about it it's in virtual space, it's in the virtual world. Actually, of course, the internet, the virtual world, all touches the real world at some point.
In recent years, most hackers have been content to vandalise or disrupt. These days, cybercriminals are targeting big businesses, government organisations, military services, and not to mention you.
The anatomy of a cyber attack comes in various forms. Think about most web servers, anything attached to the web, you make a query of it, it sends back a response. If you blast so many queries at it that it's so busy answering those false, erroneous queries, it can't answer your query. And then you have the attacks that do tend to be more sophisticated, so-called intellectual property. It can be commercial or it can be governments. And what they try and do is they will break in to networks, systems, etc. They'll look for ways of also putting malware on there so that it grants them access whenever they want. We're in an arms race, and it's not going to stop. As the criminals, as people that would try and use the internet against us and do individuals, countries, organisations harm using the internet, you need an increasing number of people who think like them, who have the same skills as them, who can counter them. And it is a bit like playing a big game of chess. There is very much a case of trying to think a few moves ahead. You'll never win the game, it's a never-ending game of chess, but you might win the battles as you go along. But the only way you're going to do it is if you can anticipate. We're really, really short of people with cybersecurity skills. We've got people working on some very interesting jobs in cybersecurity, just in terms of what the job is in its own right, and being paid very well. So if you come into it, you're kind of guaranteed a really interesting, successful career.
There are many types of jobs in cybersecurity.
Because hackers rely on the fact that you are new and that you might not have everything in place that you need to, and that you're going to be busy getting on with setting up the company. But don't worry, we can work together on this, and I'm sure we'll move forward.
Security consultants play an advisory role, helping a client to develop and implement a security plan.
It's a really varied job, and every day is different. And it's about lots of different things, but really looking at a client's what we call level of cyber maturity. So how advanced they are in terms of cyber security, or to what extent they maybe don't understand their information and could potentially be leaking it. My background is not really technical or not in IT, but my undergraduate degree was sociology and politics. From there I went to work in the public sector for a couple of years, and then I did a master's and PhD. So I was contacted by somebody who was setting up an organisation, and he had heard about my work, my PhD research, and he wanted to talk to me about cybersecurity and found it just fascinating. So I kind of went from there, got hired, worked in that organisation for a couple of years, and then left about 6 months ago and set up my own company, small company. What I love the most is the challenge and the fact that there's always something new to learn, and you can be challenged in terms of something new and something technical, or a new kind of threat that's emerging. There was one organisation that actually found out that their hard drives were being sold on eBay. So their hard drives were supposed to be sent off for their data to be destroyed securely on the hard drives, but before it got to that step, before they were sent out, somebody within the organisation was stealing them and putting them up on eBay. So obviously that's theft of company property, but far worse than that was the information that was on the hard drives. We found out about it quite early on before too much damage was done, and this, the organisation dealt with it, and the person was fired. Every organisation I work with, I've got sort of a learning curve, and it's a case of going in and finding out what they're like and what's best for them. It kind of keeps me interested, and it keeps me on my toes.
And for those of you with a real eye for detail, how about a job as a cybersecurity analyst, detecting and, when necessary, preventing future cyber attacks?
So as a cybersecurity analyst for BT, I look after large organisations, banks for example, or government agencies such as schools or local county councils. And what we do is look at the logs and alerts that are coming across their network to try and work out if there is potential viruses loose on their networks, or where there may be a distributed denial of service attack against their website. Typically on a daily basis I would deal with around 5 to 10 incidents per day. And the unusual behaviours that we're looking for are things such as a user trying to access one of our websites lots of times over a short period of time. Throughout the London 2012 Olympics, BT and the Olympic Committee were under constant threat from DDoS attack from organisations such as Anonymous and LulzSec. We were trying to mitigate them, stopping live broadcasts to companies such as BBC, and also access to the core Olympic website where users could go and find out what was happening throughout the day's events. From a very young age I've been interested in computing and cyber, so that's why I decided at school to take classes in subjects such as physics, computing, electronics, before going on to do a degree course in electronic and computer engineering at Nottingham University. Once I completed that degree, I then joined a small local electronics firm building various types of appliance before joining BT as an apprentice. It's really important for young people to become cybersecurity analysts, because if the UK comes under a sustained attack, it could mean power stations ceasing to work, supermarkets not receiving the food that they need for us all, and banks not being able to trade on a global market. So we're going to have more custom viruses being released across the internet, and we're going to have more hacking of individuals' Facebook accounts, for example, or email accounts. So as a career, I see this as a very good place to be, because there's only going to be more of it.
If you really want to test your technical skills, then how about a career as a pen tester? Sometimes called ethical or white hat hackers, it's their job to legally break into systems and alert businesses or organisations to weaknesses and how to fix them.
I started from sort of just curiosity and interest when I was younger. I wanted to actually make applications and make my own creations and say like I made that. And then once I started doing that, I noticed that if I didn't do something right, there was a problem. And then I thought, oh, I wonder how I can use this problem. So I started searching about what the problems were in the code, and then that led me onto the security path of actually discovering bugs in other people's code, finding out how to break things and then reporting it to them and then helping them fix it. I'm not a big fan of being tied to one company, so I guess for me freelance work means I earn more than if I was just stuck in one company. In my own spare time, I went through some of the major websites, Facebook, Twitter and Google, as well as some others like Microsoft and Nokia. Probably the most high-profile one would be the Facebook problem, which there was an issue with their video player, and I found a problem which allowed me to execute scripts through the video player, which could then access personal information, and that led to Facebook paying me quite a nice sum.
And here's our rundown of the top 5 jobs in information security. At number 5, it's the Information Risk Manager. Guarding secrets and powerful information, your job is to work out exactly how much stuff is worth and how to protect it. New at number 4, it's the Malware Analyst. Think bomb disposal, but without the explosions. You get to figure out how the bad guy built his weapon and how to foil future attacks. It's a non-mover at number 3, the Pen Tester. You're a legal hacker getting paid for your magic mix of tech skills and creativity. You beat the hackers by thinking like them or better than them. At number 2, it's the Crime Investigator or Forensics Expert, figuring out how the crime was committed and chasing the bad guys. And we've a brand new number 1. It's the cyber daddy of security jobs, the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. You've got tons of experience and you know the cyber world inside out, so now you're in charge of everyone. There's no doubt that a job in cybersecurity is the career of the 21st century, but have you got what it takes to be a cyber superhero? These are the qualities that the experts think you need to defend future generations and businesses from the bad guys.
To get into security, I'd say you'd need to have a keen eye.
You must be a good team player because you'll need to rely on your team to give you information where necessary.
You need to be interested in problems and in trying to solve problems. I think it's really important to have great communication and interpersonal skills because clients are talking to you about something that they're worried about.
And got a good questioning mindset, so they would look for unusual behaviours and keep on questioning those until they find the answers they need. There's many different ways to get into cybersecurity. You can join organisations that run apprenticeships.
Learn a couple of languages, either scripting or programming.
You can join other organisations that have graduate programmes where you would need a degree, or you could join something like the Army and the Joint Cyber Unit that they have there.
For choosing options, I chose IT as a double option.
You can go onto the internet, download and research some software that's open source, and then use those skills in something such as a cybersecurity challenge.
Or find a way of taking what interests you and having that cybersecurity angle to it.
We can confidently predict that there's going to be a huge demand for this, and we're just not seeing enough people get interested in. We've got people working in an incredible range of industries. People aren't aware that there's a whole career there to be made that can could both be well paid and extremely interesting.
Want to see if you've got the skills to succeed in cyber? Visit securefutures.org and take the next step to the most exciting, challenging career of the future.